Hello, everyone. Welcome to PsyMood. Welcome to our fourth PsyMood session. We're very happy to have you with us. We're just going to wait a bit for more people to come in. Okay, so to make your experience as smooth as possible, here's some information regarding this webinar. This webinar is being recorded. Your mic and camera will be off throughout the session. The chat will be closed for everyone. A poll questionnaire will be displayed for you to answer during the first 20 minutes of the session. And if you have any questions for the panelists, please post them in the question and answer box below. You can do that during the session or at the end. So for those who are not familiar with PsyMood, we are a new startup. We aim to improve people's well-being by providing mental health support based on the language and cultural background. We are on the social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So come and check. We have some wonderful tips for you. We promote the PsyMood sessions also to discuss important topics related to mental health. And today we have a surprise for you. We have a promo code for the first 10 people who sign up on our platform and make the payment. The first session is for free, 100% free, okay? And I would also like to mention to you before we start that once you go into our platform, you can have a free 15-minute intake session with a specialist to see if you find the right specialist for you. So here we go. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic. It's still a very important topic, which is the new era of working life and your mental well-being. And in order to talk about this topic, we have invited Nadia Prando and Naranjan. So welcome to our PsyMood session, Nadia. Welcome, Naranja. I will let you girls introduce yourselves. You can start, Naranja, please.
Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Naranjan Nota. I'm a relationship, spiritual intuitive, and energy healer. I support you to develop your inner guidance, your inner intuition through some of the challenges that show up every single day. I incorporate the mind, the body, and the spirit. So I'd encourage you to engage with us with some of the questions that you may have and how we can support you on your journey of working remotely. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Nadia, please.
Good night, everybody. Welcome. So my name is Nadia Prando. I'm a therapist. I have over 10 years of experience helping families, teenagers, and children. And I'm very pleased to be here today to talk to you about our new life now with the pandemic and how it may be affecting our lives and our mental health right now.
And we're very happy to have you, Nadia, with us again. We're very happy to have you, Naranja. And I think this is a very important topic. I was very happy that actually PsyMood chose to talk about this. For many years before the pandemics, remote working was considered to be a benefit for everyone, right? But then 1 year ago, when pandemics started, our lives turned upside down, we have realized that maybe it's not such a benefit anymore, right? And many companies, they're still trying to deal with the situation in different varied ways. Some companies still keep their workers working remotely. Other companies are trying to do a hybrid form of work. Others are leaving to their employees. I have the feeling that companies haven't really realized or haven't really come to a conclusion to what's best, especially also because the pandemic scenario keeps changing. We have the first wave, the second wave. Right now, it seems we're about to go into the third wave, hopefully not. So I would like to start talking to you about these benefits that all these things that used to be considered benefits, like employees would be very productive, There was the reduction of cost and time wasting, considers a benefits for remote working, the flexibility in location, also the cost saving, both for employees and for the companies. Since employees, they would save on gas, they would save on their lunches, right? And also the fact that they would have more time for the family. Do you think, looking now, 1 year after, that these things are really beneficial? I mean, are these benefits still true, or is there a negative aspect regarding these benefits? Naranja, Nadia, you can.
Well, thinking about working remotely, I think we all had to be abruptly thrown in that situation. So in the beginning, it was hard for everybody. We had to start working remotely, and it was something that, even though we might had that in our mind, like, oh, it would be a dream to work from home, but when it actually happened, it was so difficult for everybody to adapt to that, because not only we had to work remotely, but also our kids were home with us. We were not having classes. We were still also figuring out how that would go, if there would be virtual classes or not. So everybody was in a state of frustration, a lot of anxiety. What do I do here? How do I deal with that? And so because we started doing that in a moment of anxiety, fear, a lot of insecurity, that wasn't easy for us. Like it didn't begin as being something positive. It actually began with being something negative, and that we were forced to adapt to that. So I imagine that actually in the beginning, people were not thinking about this as being something positive. They were just survival mode. Let's survive this. Let's do what we have to do, right? And I don't even know if people right now can think about this. What is the positive? What is the negative? Do I want to keep doing this? So I'm very happy that we are talking about this, because it is important for us to start reflecting about this. And I think this is one side, a positive side of the pandemic, because we are home, working from home, stuck with our family, not being able to go outside. That kind of also forces us to think about ourselves, to reflect about how we are, how are we dealing with that, how are things affecting us. So that is a positive thing that is also allowing us to notice a little bit more how the external world affects us internally and in our relationships. So, and I think that, I know that I'm not answering your question, because I think that is also this part of every individual is going to leave this in a different way, right? We can't generalize and say, oh, everybody is feeling this as positive or negative. For each family is going to be different, because we come from different backgrounds, different cultures, so everybody's going to deal differently with that situation, right?
I completely agree with you. There's no right or wrong answer to this question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe if so, let's imagine that people did the process of getting traumatized, feeling panic, because now they need to start working remotely from home. So it started as being something negative because it was forced on us. And maybe now people are trying to see what is the positive of it and what is the negative, right? Of course, there is a lot of positive, as you were saying, Marina, about the costs. We don't have to spend time on the train to go to work, right? But when it comes to the relationships inside of the house, then I think that affected the relationships, right? Because how am I going to work from home knowing that I have my kids or that I have other people living with me? How do I adapt myself and maintain good relationship with people that are living with me? And I think that was really tricky.
Actually, that was something I wanted to mention, right? Because even 1 year after, many parents are still struggling at home. We are living in a different, I mean, we're living in a different scenario. Before, people who worked remotely, they would take their kids to school and then maybe they would go home to work, right? But now everybody's at home. So kids are at home, the husband, the wife is at home, the partner is at home. I mean, or if you are like, if you live with a roommate, right? It's different. It's exactly what you mentioned. It's a different context, right? We need to cook more. The house gets more dirty, so we have more work, right? And my question is, so how can people cope with this work-life balance? Naranja?
Baby steps. Because as Nadia had mentioned, we kind of just got thrown into this situation. So when we can prepare, we can manage the scenario a little bit better. So how to manage this? It's balanced through, I would say, open dialogue. So having those courageous conversations with your family members and children and parents and all the people you live with, and set some boundaries as what that would look like of, I need some time, I'm going to go for a walk, and then we will be able to resolve whatever situation is showing up. But it's also using all areas that we have access to. We have access to nature. I know we've just come out of winter, so the weather is much nicer. So going out for a walk, doing different activities, there's lots more we have accessible to us than we often forget.
I totally agree. Would you like to add something, Nigel?
Yeah, go ahead.
And but still going back like to family, I totally agree. We need to find the time for ourselves. The other day, I think it was yesterday, I was having this discussion at my work. I'm doing remote working, so I'm one who is going through the situation right now. And that's exactly the discussion I was having with my mates. Like, what are you doing for yourselves every day, right? Are you giving yourself a small present? And I think it can be like, have an ice cream, do something you like. I go for walks. I stop my day and I go for walks sometimes because I need to. But going back to the family, for example, we focused a lot on young kids, right? But many of us, I'm a mom and I'm a mom of adolescents, and they are at home. They're having online classes. And one thing that I can even speak for myself, but I know many other parents go through the situations that once we're at home, we tend to become helicopter parents. We want to know what our kids are doing, what our adolescents are doing, who are they talking to. What tips would you give to parents? Because then that can also impact their mental health, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we need to add that because we are in the middle of the pandemic itself already brings us a lot of anxiety. So when we are anxious, we are worrying about so many things that our thoughts just get lost. Like it's one worry after the others, nonstop. And that by itself is gonna already help us become more of a helicopter parent, right? Because we're in a worry state of mind. So if my kids are home, I'm gonna also worry about them, right? Sometimes it's actually good when the kids go to school, go to daycare, because they're there and we don't need to worry about them. That's the time that we have to breathe and say, okay, now I'm gonna focus on doing something else. I'm gonna work, or I'm just gonna be a woman, right? And they're there, I don't need to worry. But when they are inside of the house, then I'm gonna be worrying most of the time. So I think it's natural for this to be happening because we are in this situation right now. But we need to also pay attention because, as you were saying, that can cause us to be even more anxious. And the kids are gonna notice that the kids are gonna start thinking, why are my parents on top of me all the time? Don't they trust me? Or should I be anxious as my parents? What is happening? They're going to feel that we are anxious, and that is going to affect them. Maybe they're going to be more anxious also, or maybe they're going to be irritated. If you have kids that are pre-teenagers or teenagers, they would definitely get very frustrated and irritated to have a parent on top of them all the time. Even more now when it's a time in their life where they want to be outside with friends, where they want to socialize, where they want to have experiments with their friends. So having a parent all the time is going to irritate them, increase the anxiety, like, why are you doing that? You're not respecting my space, right? So it's good if today parents can stop for a little bit and try to reflect. Do you think the way that you behave around your kids or the relationships that you have with your kids, has it changed since the pandemic started? Is anything better or is it worse? And why do you think it changed? Is it something that you're just pointing the finger and saying, no, my kids changed? Or are you being able to say, maybe I also changed, right? And it's actually expected that we are all changing. We are all in this situation together.
True. Naranjan, you mentioned something earlier. You talk about the importance of communicating with the members in the family, right? And telling them about our feelings. Is it possible? I mean, I know it's possible, but how can people do it without having conflicts? You know, how can you say no? How can you tell your needs? How can you express your needs? Because we need some time, we need to work, you know, without having conflicts. How can we set our limits?
The challenging part here is going to a place of compassion, going to a place of either as a parent or as an adult of recognizing everybody's in the same boat. Let's say if it was two parents challenged with time, space, patience, and everything. So it would be to go to that other person, your partner, and come from a place of compassion and say, I recognize you're going through this, but I'm also feeling it too. So having that courageous conversation and saying, I see it, I recognize it, but hold space for me too. And vice versa. So having those conversations where you can express what you're feeling, but also from a place of, I understand you're going through the same thing at the same time, rather than saying, my life is a shambles, everything's upside down and I can't cope anymore, from a negative aspect, rather than from a little bit of a controlled aspect of, I know it, I've reflected, as Nadia even said, I've reflected on my own emotions. So now how can I have that as an emotionally intelligent conversation with my spouse, rather than it being a reactive conversation? I think that can be pretty powerful. And even with children, you can start that dialogue. I mean, Nadia, you've worked with children. I haven't had that pleasure yet, but I'm sure you can have that dialogue with children and say, what is it you're really feeling? Talk to me about that space. But I have lots of nieces and nephews, so I've had some exposure with kids.
You certainly did.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you, Naraha, because it's so important when we are able to share how we're feeling, right? And that is a big part of being able to communicate properly or in a healthy way. When we start saying, hey, I am feeling this way, instead of saying, you did something that made me feel this way, instead of attacking the other person. I start with me, right? I'm feeling like this, and just letting the other person know. I'm feeling very frustrated. Something happened and I'm very frustrated. Because then you open the conversation. So let's talk about this. Let's discuss, right? The opposite of starting with, you did something and I don't like this. Then when we point the finger, then the other person is going to immediately start to defend themselves. And that is going to become attack and defense, and you're not going to get anything from that.
Absolutely. Just one little thing I just want to add to that, because ultimately you're coming from a proactive state. Because we can really quickly get into that reactive. I see this, and you made a mess in the kitchen. Oh my gosh. It's a reactive, but when you're proactive, it's a little bit more awareness of yourself. And that's what I think we're all trying to get to the crux of, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can see here the result of the poll that lots of people have been working from home, right? Since COVID-19 started, lots of them have faced mentioned mental health issues before that, you know. They're aware of what burnout is, and they've been experiencing extreme fatigue. So the thing is, we know that there are lots of negative aspects. And one of the things we were talking right now was about communication, how important it is to express yourself, to talk to your family, right? And I guess when we transfer this to the workplace, because one of the things we also feel, one of the negative aspects of doing remote work is loneliness. And the one thing, one thing was like when we're face to face and you can look at your colleague also and you can say, well, today Nadia is stressed. What's happening, Nadia? We have this conversation. We have that time, right? The coffee break time when we let ourselves go and talk about life. Now, how can people deal with their loneliness, their feelings in terms of workplace? Some days we're tired, sometimes we're stressed, sometimes we don't want to work.
I think that the isolation, and I know that we are very isolated right now, and that has been affecting our mental health. And there are even people that they're still working, but because they're not going to the office, they have been working, but they don't talk to anybody. Even when they're working, it's more a lonely job. And now is being the time where people are realizing like, oh, I didn't realize that I needed to socialize so much. I didn't realize that that was so important, because now it's affecting my mental health. So they come to me in a moment, or I'm feeling depressed, or I have a lot of anxiety. And when we start chatting, we realize, well, a big part of you feeling this way is because you're very isolated right now, right? Because maybe you're not talking to people while you're working, but also because you stop making the effort to contact friends or family, right? We are so stressed, so anxious, and so worried that sometimes we also want to isolate ourselves from family and friends because we feel overwhelmed. I don't want to call my friends because if I call, I'm going to just start crying, and I feel that I'm never going to stop. So I don't want to do that. So I isolate myself. So this is an important signal for people to pay attention. When you notice that you are isolating yourself more and more and more, this is a signal that your mental health is under a lot of stress, and that you should be doing something about it, or you should be asking for help, or ask for professional help, or call friends and family, because we are social human beings. Our brain is a social brain, which means we depend on other people to survive. Not only when as babies, but as grown-ups, we also depend on other people. We need other people in order to have a physical health and a mental health.
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree, Nadia. I think it's so, isolation's a tough one. It really is a tough one, because we often feel that we can do this, we can manage it, it's fine, it's okay, I got it. I don't speak to some friends sometimes, it's okay. But really, as human beings, not only are we social beings, but there's so many facets to us. We're one way in the workplace, we're one way in your relationship with your family and your friends. There's many dynamics that are involved in one personality of a human being. So all of those need to be addressed, even in small increments. So I think one of the tools as part of this isolation process, or maybe coming out of it, or observing or recognizing, is build a support team, build a structure around you. It doesn't mean it has to be 10 people. It could be just 1 or 2 people who you can lean on emotionally for support. And you know, both of you, that that's what that is. And you build that structure so then you don't feel the isolation. Because we all know having that dialogue with a colleague, it's very transactional. It's to get from point A to point B, and that's it. Whereas when it's more heartfelt, which is what we're all craving, you need that somebody who you can share a little bit more emotions, or like Nadia said, that element of crying a little bit because you feel it so deeply. So build that structure. And I think one of the other important things is sometimes we don't want to lean on friends too much, which is why we have wonderful platforms like this. Because you can speak to somebody neutral. They don't know the background, they don't know your history, and it's often easier for somebody to share emotionally with somebody they don't know. But yet you're gonna receive some concrete support and advice. So use the services that are available to you and seek, because there's many more out there too, as well as PsyMood, right?
And that's really, really important what you just mentioned. Like, we need to reach out for help, what both of you mentioned. And I was also thinking here, because this is an experience I'm going through, so I would that's why I'm also sharing with you. At my work, we have the check-in and check-out before the meeting. So every time we start a meeting, we have the check-in, which means how are you today? What's going on in your life? So that the others know what's happening, what kind of emotions. You don't have to share everything, and you're not forced to share. But I find it very important, because sometimes we have, like, our team is very small, so we get to say, I'm very stressed. Something happened that is worrying me. So the other ones, they already know, okay, Naranja is not so well today. I understand that. So I accept that maybe she's not so participative today, and I find this very important at work also, and to reach out, because sometimes we do that with the family, we do that with friends, but we forget to reach out to our colleagues as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is certainly something that has helped me.
Yeah, and that is amazing for you to have that space to do that at your work. That is so beneficial for the employees' mental health. It's amazing that they are allowing you to have that space, right? Because then you feel that you're being treated as a human being that has needs, that has a life out of the office, and you're being respected because of that. So that is beautiful, because they're giving you the possibility for you to be a human being, not a robot that is just helping them get more money, right? And I think that is the common humanity. We all need to feel that we are important, that we are loved, and that we belong. And when they give you that space, they are offering you all that, right? You are part of our group, and we are here, and we are worried about you, and we feel that you are important. That is so positive for the mental health. So I wish more companies would do that, even now that we are in the middle of the pandemic, that everybody's suffering. Yeah.
I'm full of gratitude. PsyMood does that, as we know.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
Can I share another perspective for those who may not have as supportive employee managers or company culture, is to express where you're at, to express what you are seeking and where you need support. In the same token as if you are overburdened with more projects and little time, you would have that courageous conversation with your manager or superior to say, this is what's happening. Help me try and work out so I can deliver what you need. Treat it the same way for your own mental health. Open that dialogue to your manager, because in some situations, maybe the manager's also burnt out and they don't know what to do. So if you can create some awareness around it, then you might actually even be supporting the manager.
True.
And or your other colleagues too. So don't be afraid to say it and express where you are at, because mental health is so important in all elements of our life, especially in the workplace.
I think that sentence, that phrase actually, it's okay not to be okay, has never been so true in our lives, right? What I find sometimes though is for certain people, it's hard to identify, that you are having a depression, or that you're feeling anxious, or that you are burned out. Some people don't realize, because what we think is that a depressive person is that person who stays in bed and cannot do anything, and this is not true. So what I really would like, I think it's important for you to share this, talk about depression, and how can people identify they're depressed? How can people identify they're burned out, so that they can actually go and call for help and tell their managers, tell their friends where they are at.
Yeah, definitely. So when we think about anxiety, let's start there. So the pandemic is helping us to feel more anxious, because anxiety is connected to the future, is when we are worrying about the future. So in the middle of the pandemic, I have no idea what the future is going to hold for us. Well, we never know. But in the pandemic is worse, because we want to know when we're going to be able to have our freedom again. When am I going to be able to go outside and do whatever I want to do? And I don't know this answer. So that brings me a lot of anxiety. So anxiety is basically when we are constantly worrying about the future. What am I going to do in 5 minutes? What am I going to do in an hour? What am I going to do next year? And I keep just worrying about the future. And it's really hard for me to be present on the present moment, right here, right now, because my head is there. So people around you are also going to notice that you are more like, oh, I'm talking to you, but you're not making eye contact. It seems like you're not paying attention. Yeah, maybe because I'm there. I'm in the future. I'm not here in the present. And that is going to make you feel maybe more irritated. That is going to affect your sleeping habits. Maybe it's going to be harder. For some people, it's harder to fall asleep. For other people, they start waking up multiple times in the middle of the night, also having difficulty falling back asleep. And what people usually say is that, oh, my mind is not turning off. I can't shut it down so I can relax and fall asleep. So it's a constantly ongoing, right? You can also show some difference on your eating habits. Maybe you're eating more, maybe you're eating less. So any change on the habits that you used to have are signals that maybe your mental health is not well, right? Because when we go to the depression, maybe you're also going to have those symptoms: difficulty sleeping or wanting to sleep too much, changing on eating habits, right? But depression on males, on men, you're going to notice that men gets much more irritated than women that are depressed. Women depressed, they tend to cry more, and men are going to show the depression through irritation, right? So it's important to know the difference. And the depression is more, we can say, that depression is more when we are worrying about the past. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God. Look, and I keep remembering everything that I did in the past, and I keep judging myself and criticizing myself and other people. It's really hard for people to forgive other people because they just keep remembering, oh, he did that, right? And that starts because we're so upset with us and with other people, we start isolating ourselves a lot. And the more we isolate ourselves, the more depressed we get, right? And also depression, like the worst case is when the person can even have the energy to get out of the bed. But people that are not in this extreme, they're going to notice that during the day, they don't feel that they have the energy or the motivation to do things like, oh, I used to love listening to music, but now I don't even have the energy, or I don't even want to turn on the music. So you lose the joy of doing things that you used to love before, right? And the burnout is when we're not being able to work properly. Maybe we don't have the motivation. Maybe we don't have the concentration and the focus. It becomes really hard to concentrate and focus. And that might be causing us a lot of anxiety. And then I start blaming myself and I do even less. So you can notice that the same workload that you used to do before, you're not going to be able to do it right now because you're not well. All right, so this is one of the signals that you can see. And also maybe the relationships between coworkers is not doing well. Maybe you're arguing more, having more fights. Those are signals that you're maybe experience the burnout.
We have a comment here in the question answer that I think it's interesting to bring it. The person says, I think anxiety and stress are part of life. We all feel a certain level of it in different situations. What's the borderline that differentiate a normal stress level from a sick stress level?
Good question. Yeah, definitely. All the emotions that we feel, they are here to help us survive. So it's natural. We all feel anxiety. We all feel all of those things. And I think that a good way for us to differentiate what a healthy emotion to a state where you need support is when you're not being able to live your life how you used to live before. So you're not being able to maintain relationships. You're not being able to work as you used to do. You're not being able to enjoy the things that you used to do. So when it's affecting your life to the point that you're not being able to live as you would like to be living, that is the moment where the emotion is not helping you. It's actually causing you, not the emotion, but your mental state is not healthy.
If I can just add to that, I think it's observation, is observing your own behavior, the balance between, yes, we have an array of emotions that we're all designed to feel, absolutely. But when you cannot create the separation of, I'm feeling a little anxious at this moment, or I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with this situation and scenario, if you can't create that separation, you're in it. And when you're in it, then you find another mechanism, build that support structure, allow other people to help you out of being in it. But if you can observe and create a separation and go, okay, I recognize I did that a couple of days ago, so maybe I should be more mindful of how I interact and how much time I spend on the screen and how much time I talk to my colleagues or get excited about a project or whatever it may be. So you don't get into too much overwhelm, but just observe your behavior of how you was in the past, a little bit in that normal state of what that looked like for everybody, and reflect of where am I with that right now? Is it really out of balance or is it just a little bit? So observation, I think, is really key.
It certainly is. For sure it is. and we connect ourselves, right, to what's happening, and we realize exactly what our mental state is and how it's really affecting and impacting our mental health. I was listening to both of you, and today I had a conversation before the session. I had a conversation with my cousin who has been doing remote work forever, yes, even before the pandemics. So we were sort of discussing what topics would be interesting, to talk about in terms of mental health. And he brought up something that I would like to share and have your opinion on. We've been considering, this whole situation, as we've been calling it, the new normal, right? Now it's the new normal to wear masks. It's the new normal to work at home. Everything has become the new normal. And he says, Marina, I don't really like this term. It's like a double-edged sword, because although it might have its good side, which is, okay, this is the new normal, we have to adapt. On the other hand, it brings me like a sense of that hope is being lost, about the future, about things changing. So, and that really hit me, and I never thought about it. So I would like to know your opinion. Do you think, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing to consider this the new normal way of life? How do you perceive it? How can it impact us in our everyday life?
I think when we say this is the new normal, it's a way to comfort us. Yes, this is what we have to do right now. And we are all in that together. It's not only you, it's not only me. We are all going through that. So it gives us that comfort that, yes, this is the new normal. That's what we're doing. We're all here adapting, and that's okay. And I think that, well, I always take in account that everything is not forever. Everything is, we are not human beings in a frozen state. We are constantly changing. I'm not the same person that I was 1 minute ago. I'm not the same person that I was 10 years ago. So we are always changing. Now I'm feeling something. Maybe in a couple of minutes, I'm going to be feeling something else. And this is the normal. We have to see ourselves as beings that are constantly changing, right? So when I come from this perception that I'm constantly changing, so when I say this is the new normal, I feel okay with it because I'm also taking in account that this is the new normal now, but I don't know if tomorrow this is going to be the new normal, and it's okay because it changes. We have different stages in our life. Every age we go through, it's a different thing that we go through, and that is okay. Right.
How do you feel about it, Naranjan? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Marina, I'm so glad you asked. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, this thing called change. And it's really based on how you look at it. Are we really going to walk through the rest of our life of the glass half empty? I'm sure everybody's heard that term, glass half full or glass half empty. I prefer glass half full or glass full. But more so, especially around this pandemic, is because we didn't have the control of what that change is going to look like. So how can we manage life by letting go of a little bit more control? Change is inevitable. You don't turn 5 years old to 45 in a blink of an eye. Change is inevitable. It will happen. It's up to you if you're willing to embrace it and go with it, or you want to stop and just be very rigid. And then that's a downward spiral on all levels of life. So embrace the change, embrace the opportunities of, we're in a pandemic, but I can spend all this extra time with my kids and quality time. I can go for more nature walks. I can cook a delicious meal for my family. I can really define those friends who really mean something more to me because they have the time, the space, and capacity to listen and lean on. So it gives you an opportunity to define and self-reflect and observe, who am I? Who am I and why am I really here? And I know they're really big, profound questions, but I think everything happens for a reason. And this pandemic is really nudging us to look at, why are we here?
There's actually a question in the question and answer from a participant that I think has been answered. So what he said, he or she, I don't know, because it's anonymous, said it's time to reset our button and restart this new era with more meaningful ways and feel gratitude for everything. Not just point out the negative aspects regarding the pandemic. And this is basically how we feel, because his or her question was, what the panelists think about it. I think that's how you two feel, that's how I feel as well. And as I said, it's a time of opportunity, for sure.
Yes.
You know, it's a part, like Nadia mentioned before, it's a time for us to look inside, learn more about ourselves, you know, as I said, know about what really matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are in the situation where there's a lot of stress going on, for sure. And it's important that we admit, yes, it's okay. If I'm not okay, it's okay. I have the right to feel anxious. I have the right to feel burned out. I have the right for depression. But it's also a time for us to improve, to evolve, right? To become better people. So my question to you is, how can we actually do this? How can a person transform this into an opportunity?
Well, while you were speaking, Marina, I was just thinking that how good it is that PsyMood is here right now, at this moment right now. Because not only PsyMood is opening the door for people that want to continue on that path that the pandemic started off. I want to get to know myself better. I want to increase my self-awareness. I want to invest in myself and in my relationships. So this is the time for you to continue doing that, because of course we can do that by ourselves and with the help of who is around us. But there are moments where we hit some blockages, some walls when we are trying to go through that path. And it's so grateful to have professionals that could help us going through that path of self-awareness. So taking this moment right now to continue wanting to learn more about yourself, but through the help of some professional from PsyMood that is also going to help you do that on your own language, with people that come from the same background, that know where you're coming from, that understands even more what you're going through. And also for the people that had to live through the pandemic to start noticing, I'm not well. This is not the best that I can be. And I'm just realizing it now. And maybe those people were already suffering even before the pandemic, but they needed the pandemic to kind of aggravate the symptoms for them to really be shaken off and say, okay, now I need to do something, because it's definitely not going well. So I'm glad that PsyMood is here right now.
I guess we all are. Right, Naranja?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say, is lean out, look for support. Look for other places where you can get some guidance. And I know there are lots of self-help books and programs and things like that available, but sometimes you need a live person to discuss it and to give you a different perspective to do that. Because when you're doing it by yourself, be it through a course, a book, or whatever that looks like, you can't, it's more challenging to find the answer to a problem when you're using the same brain cells.
I mean, we all agree here that therapy, any kind of help, is very important. And as you said, I'm so happy that PsyMood is here as well, because I mean, we are an online platform, and that's the new normal actually for therapy, right? If we think about it, therapy is being done online, but so there are many people who are resistant about doing this. They don't trust so much, so what could you say about it in order to calm them down and encourage them to look for help online?
I think, well, I can say that through my experience, even the clients that I had before that were presential, when it came to doing virtual sessions, everybody was a little bit worried about that. I don't know how am I going to feel about this? This is weird. But once people accepted let's give it a try, let's see how it goes, right? Then we started to notice that, oh, it's not that awful. It actually works. And even not only clients had to think about this, am I going to be comfortable? Is this going to work? But also us as professionals, we were questioning that, because that was not what we used to do. Is this going to work? Is this going to have the same effects that when we are doing it in person? And I think after a year of doing that, we all came to agree that yes, it works. And we also have some research proving that when clients, and even when the professional is in their house, they feel much more comfortable to open up, because it's a place where they feel safe, where they're there all the time, they are able to be who they are. So having a session inside of the house actually allows you to open up a little bit more, because I feel comfortable in my house, so it's easier, right? But I would say give it a try, right? It's awesome that PsyMood offers you 15 minutes intakes where you can just meet the professional and have a 15-minute chat just to check. Let me know who this person is. Let me know where is this going? And we always need to try, right? It's not that the first professional is going to be the one that you're going to stick with. I also tell people, try. You got to find the person where you're going to say, yes, this person, I definitely feel safe and secure. The things that this person tells me, it makes sense. I agree with them. So this person makes sense for me to do therapy, right? Because if you start the process with someone that every time that the professional is speaking, is saying, oh, no, that doesn't make sense. I don't agree. I don't feel that we have a connection. Then the therapy is not going to work. For the therapy to work, it needs to be a relationship where you feel safe, secure, and where you feel understood. So give it a try.
I often equate it to trying a new recipe. When you try a new recipe and sometimes it doesn't work out as you expected, then you'll do one of two things. You'll either switch the recipe and do something else, or you might give it another try and just see if it's the ingredients that need a little bit of shifting. And I think it's the same thing. Try the 15-minute consultation. You get a vibe, you get an understanding, you get a feeling. And within that feeling, you'll know whether that's the right person for you to delve into and be vulnerable and courageous on your journey with. You will know that in your heart of hearts. Trust it and follow through with it.
And just to point out, it's a 15-minute intake that you can take with different therapists and in 11 languages, which I think no other platform offers that. So, you have the chance. You can try in your language. You can try in English. You can try in French. You can try in whichever language you feel more comfortable with people from different backgrounds. So, yeah, we do have a lot of therapists to choose from and types, like coaches, psychologists, right? That's, I think, is incredible about PsyMood. One thing I hear is that some people, they don't want to do therapy online, or they don't feel comfortable. because like right now in the pandemics, you're not alone at home. Your partner is at home, your children are at home, or if you live with other people and you're scared of privacy. But something I would like to share is that I do online therapy as a patient and as a therapist. And as a patient, what I do is when there are too many people at home, I go for a walk, especially now that's hot. So I do my therapy in the park. I sit down on the grass and it's wonderful. I connect to nature. Like Naranja suggested, or sometimes I have even gone to my car, So there are many different ways we can do therapy online and look for support to help us through.
Definitely. And definitely it's something that I see a lot of my clients doing. They go to the garage, to the car, to the park, wherever you think you're going to have that privacy, because that is also something important for us to have, right? If we feel that somebody might be listening, we're not going to open up and say everything that we want to share. So it's important for you to think about that when you make the appointment. Also take care of you, saying, okay, am I going to feel safe and secure that I have my privacy if I stay here, or do I need to arrange another place for me to go? All right. And it's even better because imagine that you are able to choose a professional that speaks the same language as you, and maybe that's not English. So you can feel okay to be walking and doing therapy because most people are not going to understand you. It's okay.
I think as we mentioned, remote work is here, right? It doesn't matter if you're going to work hybrid, if you're just going to do remote, if you're going to go into the place. I mean, there has been changes. Our life has been turned upside down. It is uncertain. Future is completely uncertain, right? Even when we talk about the situation, one time kids go to school, the other time, no, it's better for them to stay home. I mean, we have been dealing with lots. We have realized, we have to do things to take care of ourselves, right? Do a work-life balance, communicate, not to isolate, watch out for ourselves. But the fact is, it's here. The situation tends to stay. I think it's going to stay for quite a long time. So we have to take advantage of all the tools that there are and just make the best of it, as you both said. Would you like to add anything else?
One thing I would like to add is we've talked and expressed so much how it's an opportunity for change. So use it as an opportunity if it's yourself needing therapy support or whatever it is. Like you said, Marina, you seek support. Have that active dialogue with your family and take away the stigma of mom needs to talk to a therapist. Allow that open dialogue for your children so they will be more open to say, Mom, I need to have a conversation about something that's happening. Because often when we do certain things that are hidden away from our children, we create this lens and perception of children of nothing happened to mom and dad. They went through the pandemic perfectly fine. But later on, did they realize therapy is what got them through it, which also creates a stigma later on in life as an adult. It creates a stigma that therapy was a bad thing because why didn't mom and dad share it with me? Or my colleague or my partner or whomever. So be a little more transparent. It's okay to get support. There is no stigma about mental health or emotional health or spiritual health connecting with something greater that we can't see with our naked eye. It's all there to enhance our experience of who we are and why we're here. So that was one thing I think, just to remove the stigma. And I think even though we've been through this for a year and it's been really highlighted, I think there were still a lot of people who were a bit shy of getting support.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
Thank you.
Totally. Yes, I think it's everything you said. It's an opportunity also to tell everybody, our kids, our family, that it's okay not to be okay again. So, and I think that's the greatest opportunity. One of the greatest actually we're having.
Mhm.
You know, just
And just in addition to that, it can actually bring people closer. Because now I'm sharing with Marina and Nadia that I'm actually seeing a therapist who's actually helping me through this. And you can share that story and that dialogue, and it brings you closer because it's a more emotional relationship rather than a transaction. So you can glass half full, I tell you, depends on how you look at it.
Mhm.
completely agree. I think I don't have anything else to add.
No, that was beautifully said. That's done. Yeah.
So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to ask questions, you can post your questions right now in the questions and answers for the panelists to answer them. Not sure there are any more questions.
But I must say, Marina, and all the team of PsyMood, I am excited because I know this is such a unique opportunity, especially because Canada is such a growing country with immigrants and refugees where English isn't their first language. Such a magical opportunity to support people through their pain.
We feel very happy that you feel this way, Naranjan. And
Absolutely.
we're certainly glad to have you in our team, because once you're part of our platform, as a therapist, you're part of our team. You know, it's Team PsyMood, what we call it.
It's a family. I'm sorry, but it's a whole new family that I joined, right?
Yeah.
It is. Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family.
Great.
So I'm going to end the session now. I guess there are no more questions and answers, also because I think you two were beautiful and wonderful, and really it was really heartwarming even for me to listen to both of you talking about the subject, especially because I'm one who is in the situation too. So I felt really, how can I say, welcome, embraced by both of you. As I heard you saying. I would like to remind everyone about our promo code. Okay, don't forget the first 10 ones to sign up. You are gonna have the free session, the first free session. And as the panelists mentioned, do not forget our free 15-minute intake session for you to find the right specialist as well. So I would like to end with a final thank you for both of you, Naranja and Nadia, for being here with us discussing this topic. I hope to see everyone again. And I would like to make a special thanks here from Elisa and for Carolyn, who prepared the PsyMood session, who worked very hard for this to happen. Thanks everyone for being here again.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And thank you everybody for making this happen.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. But thank you, PsyMood team.
Bye-bye everyone. Thank you.
Good night.